This could actually be the end of Warzone. But before we get into all of that, we need to go over what is happening next week, April 3rd, at the start of Black Ops 6 Season 3. And then we can dive into the question, will this be enough to save Warzone? The Black Ops 6 Season 3 starts on April 2nd, however there's going to be a 24-hour downtime to Warzone, and during that time, as long as you log into Call of Duty, you get the Kilo 141 for free. This is a weapon returning from the original Modern Warfare 2019 to help bring back that nostalgic Warzone feel. However, gun mechanics are a little bit different here in 2025 with Black Ops 6 than they were the whole way back in 2020. So the stats of the Kilo might be the same, but the feel of the Kilo might not be there. So if you're playing multiplayer or zombies, Black Ops 6 Season 3 starts April 2nd, and then 24 hours later on April 3rd, Warzone will go live, bringing back Verdansk. Well, sort of. This isn't an exact copy of Verdansk from 2020. This is a fully rebuilt Verdansk that is going to be about 95% the exact same and about 5% of new changes that will hopefully make the map flow a little bit better. At least that's the plan. Now I have to say the map overall, the graphics, they look really clean, clear, and crisp. However, if you guys have been following along on the channel, you know I'm not huge on having that realistic look in games. Take Fortnite and Marvel Rivals for example. Those games look absolutely amazing and they don't have a lick of realism to them. And I really wish Call of Duty would go back to that style of graphics rather than trying to push this realism factor. Yes, it does look good, but at the same time, I'd rather have good, solid, foundational gameplay over super high-res HD graphics. But that's just me. Still have to appreciate the design team for going in and putting in all this effort to not only make the graphics and everything better, but fully rebuild Verdansk from the ground up, because that's no easy task. Now let's talk movement. Movement back in 2020 with Modern Warfare 2019 was a little bit different than what we have in Black Ops 6 with Omni movement. So the movement isn't going to be the same as it was back in 2019, so if you're looking for that fast slide cancel gameplay, it's probably not going to feel like that. We are still going to have Omni movement. However, they are saying that they fine-tuned the Omni movement in Warzone to make it more in line with what we saw back in 2020 during the original release of Warzone. Now, how close they can get to it, I'm not exactly sure. I do believe over the past 4 or 5 years, Modern Warfare 2019 did have the best movement. Omni movement does feel good, but sometimes you just want that classic, more simple gameplay. They're bringing a ton of features back, including 150 players per match, the original announcer, shooting during freefall, the original infill cinematics. Now I haven't played Warzone in about 2 years, but during the Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3 era, those cinematics, way too drawn out. The much needed original game mechanics are returning as well. We have original supply boxes, floating loot. I don't know why this was ever changed. I can understand if you're playing a game like Tarkov or other games that are just PC based, fully PC based, but for games that are supposed to be cross-platform that include console, floating loot in a battle royale is always the way to go. It also makes sense from a standpoint of flow of the game, where Call of Duty is supposed to be that fast-paced arcade shooter, and having floating loot allows you to identify what items you want to pick up, which ones you want to leave, and get back into the action. Armor satchels and the buy station menu is returning back to the original format. Contracts, public events, field upgrades, and kill streaks are all returning back to the OGs as well. That's a quick highlight on the loot and the game mechanics. Another big thing from Verdansk was the vehicles. We'll be seeing the original vehicles like the helicopter, the cargo truck here in 2025. Every single vehicle from 2020 is making its way back into the game, and the driving and steering has been rebalanced to match as closely as they can get to the original iteration of vehicle mechanics they had back in 2020. So now we know about the game mechanics, the vehicles, but one major thing about Battle Royale, what about the gas? Circle's gonna collapse almost the exact same way it did back in 2020, with loadout drops coming at the 2nd and 5th circles. But as much as they're bringing back into Verdansk to make it the old school way, there has been some quality of life improvements to the map. I did say there's about 5% map changes, and from what they're telling us, this includes things like ladders in certain spots on the rooftops. To avoid those rooftops, you can only land on them if you get redeployed or at the beginning of the game. Another area they improved is sometimes in the end game, depending on where the circle lies, there might be spots where you just couldn't get to and you had to die from the storm. For example, if you couldn't climb a mountain. They said they changed the terrain slightly, so there are spots that you can traverse and mantle up the mountain, what they call goat trails, to get up the mountain a little bit easier and at least have a chance to survive. They also mentioned in some spots that there's going to be a little bit more cover and a little bit less open area. If you're rotating from one POI to another, you might have a little bit more cover than before. And since this is a rebuild, some trees and foliage might not be exactly where you remember them. They might be a little bit off. But for the most part, Verdansk should be returning the way we remember it. So if you are feeling a little bit off with the map, just understand that there were about 5% changes to the map, which again, hopefully makes it better. Now the Kilo is not the only weapon returning here with Verdansk. We're also getting the CR56 AMAX, the HDR, and the Kali sticks, with a conversion kit for the Grau coming in mid-season, which I don't know why they wouldn't just release it now. And why is a conversion kit and not the others as a conversion kit? I don't know. But the question still remains, is all of this, bringing back Verdansk and trying to make it the original iteration of Warzone, enough to save it? If you guys aren't aware, player counts have been dropping since December very, very rapidly, not just in the Warzone side of things, but Call of Duty as a whole. Now, a big part of that is some bugs, a ton of hackers that Call of Duty just really hasn't been handling very well, and a lack of communication and support from the devs. There's even been rumors out there that if Verdansk doesn't bring in and retain a certain player count, we don't know what this level of player count is, but I'm sure the suits set a benchmark, and if Verdansk can't maintain that player count, there will most likely not be a new iteration of Warzone come 2026. So do I think Verdansk is enough to save Warzone? Personally, no. However, I believe the mainline Call of Duty for that year and Warzone shouldn't be the same entity, and it shouldn't have been since Modern Warfare 2019 ended. Starting with the launch of Cold War, Warzone should have split from the main Call of Duty and became its own entity, own download, own application, followed its own storyline, own loot, and hopefully now Call of Duty realizes that and doesn't just kill off Warzone. I believe this is the only chance Warzone can survive, is completely separating it, severing it from the mainline Call of Duty that releases every single year and goes out on its own. It'll still be Call of Duty Warzone, and it can still introduce the same weapons, but it doesn't need to be the same Call of Duty every year. 6v6 multiplayer and a giant 150 player battle royale map do not need to be the same mechanics, and nor should they be. This would give Warzone so much more freedom for movement mechanics, the loot pool, they can dive into new weapons, they can create new weapons, they can go back in any of the Call of Duty's past and grab any weapons from the past as well. They could even start playing around with some ideas and even eras or generations. You could have two different game modes, traditional Warzone, which you see now, and then also advanced Warzone, where it would still be a battle royale and Warzone based, but with advanced movements such as Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Infinite Warfare, and have that jetpack Call of Duty feel. Now, it couldn't be the same map, it could, but you want to really utilize the jetpack movement, and since it doesn't have to follow the mainline Call of Duty, it can plan out and do any ideas they really have. Then over on the multiplayer side of things, you can get Hitscan back, have completely different development teams that don't have to worry about, oh, will this work in Warzone as well as in multiplayer? They can focus solely on their mission, whether that be multiplayer or Warzone, not having to worry if it works in both. The multiplayer maps would get a huge jump forward, because for the past couple years, it kind of feels like they're just making the Warzone map and then shrinking it down, giving us a 6v6 style, and just giving us a portion of what the Warzone map is. Whereas here, they wouldn't have to worry about, oh, the Warzone map and multiplayer maps. The teams would do it completely separate. Nothing would be combined. The only thing the two entities would share, that being the multiplayer zombies campaign, and Warzone would be the name Call of Duty in front of it. And that is the only thing I think that can save Warzone. And maybe Call of Duty as a whole. But you guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Thanks for sitting back and listening to my thoughts. Hopefully you did enjoy. If you want me to do some more of these, sharing my thoughts with you guys, and we can chat down below in the comments, let me know by leaving a like, subscribe, and damn bell for notifications. Share this video with your friends. I'll catch you right back here in the next one. Peace out.